So hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're very privileged to be joined by Tzwi Herschel for this important discussion on what is a very different Yom Hashoah this year. So thank you all for joining us. Tzwi, how are you doing? I hope you and your family are managing to stay safe at this time.
I'm doing fine. Although it's Yom Hashoah, it's very emotional, but this Yom Hashoah was very special. And I started immediately with my talk about it. Why today is special and less emotional. Yesterday evening, the Israeli embassy in Berlin organized a Zoom conference with students, with the Jewish groups in Berlin. And after 3 minutes, there was a break-in with pornographic pictures, with Adolf Hitler, with Hakenkreuz, with Palestine, all kinds of things. So I said to the one who was in charge of the embassy, because it was organized by the embassy, we close it. And so we closed it. And then they did another thing, with a key. They had a list of everyone who was checked in. So they tried to find the people again. So we restarted it, now more secure. And we were talking, and everything was smooth and fine. And this morning I got a telephone call from the Israeli ambassador, and he apologized. And he found it he felt very uncomfortable because it was Yom Hashoah, and it was, I'm a Shoah survivor, and I wanted to tell, and this happened. And he said, listen, I'm happy with it. And he was very, very surprised. I said, yes, because this is the example, what I can use everywhere in the world. When I talk about discrimination, about Judenhass, about anti-Semitism, and everything was connected to it, because anti-Semitism and anti-Israelism is exactly the same. I wrote an article about four years ago about this phenomenon in Yad Vashem. It's in German. And there I mentioned that today anti-Semitism is anti-Israelism. And people didn't believe it. They said, how come? But it is. Just, when you are against the state of Israel, the only Jewish state in the world, and you vote in the United Nations, a biased proposal, what is against the state of Israel, our country, your country, my country, then it's anti-Semitic. So when I explained that to him, he said, you are right. So in a way, it was something very positive. And I'm a positive thinker. I lost my entire family. My mother was 24, my father was 27, I was the firstborn. I lost everything. But since I'm 18, I think positive. Positive thinking is the only answer to achieve something. A negative approach is negative energy, and on something negative, nothing positive comes out. So that's the way I think, and that's the way I received it, and that's the way I'm going to handle it. Well, it was not the end of the story. I was interviewed today 5 times by news outlets in Germany, very big newspapers, Bild, for an example. The Israeli TV this afternoon came to my house, and we were sitting in the garden for an interview together with my daughter, who lives also here in Talmud. We work together because she has another thing about the Holocaust. And at the very moment, the Israeli TV in Cannes, they are broadcasting this interview. But it's more important that we talk to each other, so that's fine. Don't feel bad about it. Coming back is, I know when I was a student, I was totally alone. I had no support of no one. I changed my name a couple of times till I found out my real name, and since then I was about 8 or 9 years old. I told it I think in the movie, because, and then I said, my name is Tswi J, Herschel, and I keep it like that. It's so important for your own identity that you know your name. And I had to change it. So I had to adjust myself, and I'm very happy with it. Then I changed not only my name, but also my religion. I came from a very Orthodox Christian family. And we went to church. Even today, I know the prayers by heart, etc. Then all of a sudden, I had to change my religion. I had to pray in a strange language, which I didn't understand. I didn't even know what it means to be a Jew. I didn't have the faintest idea. On primary school, my classmates, they were all children of collaborators. You know, in Holland, the collaboration with the Germans of the officials was top. That's also the reason that the highest percentage of the Jews who were murdered is in Holland. Not in the amount, but the percentage. And well, my classmates, they were educated in Jewish anti-Semitism. So I had to fight as a little boy. And I didn't understand nothing about it. I lost my identity. I was neither here nor there. So I was lost in a way. On top of it, my grandmother, who snatched me away from my parents, I know they are not my biological parents, but I see them as my parents, where I had a fantastic life. I was the prince of the house, also my siblings, unbelievable. So I came in an environment who was actually hostile for a little boy, who went through already a couple of traumas. There was no understanding. And I was depersonalized by my grandmother, because I was the son of her son. So again, I was the son of her son. I was not her grandson. I was the extension of my father, her son, which brought a lot of psychological pressure. I find out my birth name. I find out who my parents were. I confronted her with that, and it didn't change the whole situation. When I was 18 years old, one morning, I came out of my bed and I was standing in front of the mirror in the bathroom, and I wanted to shave myself, and I saw myself. And then I said, "Who are you? What do you want? What are you going to do?" So the first question was easy. Definitely, I was Tswi J. Herschel. What I wanted, I knew also. There was no doubt about it. But how to do it? I had to find the answer for that. And slowly over the years, I found it. And I did step by step. Everything with a positive approach. And when I look back, I'm 77. This year I will be 78. I was very successful. I had to teach myself a lot. But I was successful because of the simple fact, my positive approach. And now I come to my identity. My identity is formed in the first so many years by my foster family from the war, my parents. It was very positive. After that, it was very negative. So I didn't know what to do. I was Jewish, I was not Jewish. I was forced to go to Jewish lessons because my family was religious before the war. Normal, not with all kinds of things, but normal religious people. And it was a big, big problem. The moment I stepped out of the house with my grandmother and I started to study, all of a sudden, I felt free. And you know, when you feel free, you go to all directions because you want to taste. And there was no one who told you don't do that because this can happen. So I had to find out a lot of things. But after a certain period, a very short period, I found myself. And to have your identity is the most important ingredient in your life, because that shows you your direction. And then I come to our to be a Jew. To be a Jew is not very easy. Yeah, you want to ask something?
No, I just, on the topic of forming identity, I was just wondering if you could maybe tell us a bit about how your Zionist identity was formed from your testimonial video made by Yad Vashem. The diaries that you speak of from your parents seem to have played such a major role in your formation of identity, and we received a lot of questions on this topic as well. I would be very interested to hear a bit about that as well.
I was forced to become a Zionist. I mean, forced by my classmates, whether it was in primary school or it was in high school or even I was a student. And I remember the moment in 1948 when I heard on the radio that the Jewish state was founded, the state of Israel. I said, well, to myself, if I'm Jewish and this is a Jewish state, then I belong to that state. I'm a part of it. My family is for 400 years from both sides in Holland. And after the war, I never felt Dutch. I have a Dutch passport, but it doesn't say a thing to me. I had never a Dutch flag. Okay, on my boat, because my boat is registered as a seagoing vessel. I need to fly the Dutch flag, but not because I'm proud of it. Today, here outside my house, I have the Israeli flag. When the state of Israel was founded, I started to have interest in what it means, what it is. I became a member of Bnei Akiva. Bnei Akiva in those days was totally different as it is today. We members, we youngsters, we were all survivors. Most of them were hidden children. I was a hidden child with our problems, etc., etc. There were some of them, they survived one of the camps. But there I had the feeling I belonged. I belong to a group, I belong to a people, I belong to with the same in and out, the same feelings and whatsoever. And this grew over the years. And the more I learned about the state of Israel, I got married very young. I was 22 years old. I have a master's degree in mechanical engineering. And I said to my wife, whether I'm going to the United States or we're going to marry. She said, let's go marry. And then I said, I don't have money. She said, nice. So we got married. And we both were, we are Zionists. It had nothing to do with my parents. My father was a very well-known Zionist before the war in Holland. The diaries of my father, the correspondence of my parents, and everything connected to it, I started to read when I was about 35 years old. The 10 diaries was always there, and it was holy. I didn't want to touch. I didn't dare to touch. I thought it's too emotional. And so one day I said, no, you have to. I have a complete archive of my father with all kinds of original documents, and I'm very happy with it. When I went through this archive, I read the 10 diaries, I read the correspondence between my parents, It was like a role model. What you have in a normal family, when you are in a normal circumstances with your family, then you say, oh, I'm like my father, I'm like my mother. The other hand, I missed a lot of things. I was actually, when I was a little boy, I was already grown up because I had to find out everything myself. And an example, for example, is that in normal circumstances, and you want to smoke a cigarette, and the first cigarette, you know, your father comes to you and says, ah, let's smoke a cigarette together, the first cigarette. Or you fall in love with a girl, you know, you talk about it. Or you go to a soccer game. Yeah, nothing. So I found out everything myself. And that's my identity. And over the years, I learned about Yiddishkeit. I definitely have a friend, you know, he's from New York, he lives also here nearby. He went to the Jewish school, etc., etc. He is what we say a mumchet. He is a really expert, he knows everything. I'm not like that. The only thing is what I have is that common sense. And common sense will guide you also your way. And not only that, it gives you also your identity. I have a Jewish name, Tswi J. Herschel. More Jewish is impossible. On top of it, I look Jewish. Okay, I lost my hair. You know, I have a dark curly hair. And my feature is Jewish. And I'm proud of it. I started to do business. I came to Israel. At least I was twice a year here in Israel. I took my children to Israel. Both of them, they studied at the university in Tel Aviv. And I'm a Zionist. Okay, I went on Aliyah on a very late age. But I fought for my country, for your country. And it's very important to know that this is yours. And especially the moment I started to study about the Holocaust. I came on the story of the St. Louis. The St. Louis was a passenger ship who sailed from Hamburg with 900 Jews on board to escape the murderous hatred of the Nazis. No country in the world wanted to accept the Jews. The United Kingdom, Canada, the US, Cuba, they were not allowed to disembark. The end of the story is this St. Louis, this ship went back to Europe, came to Rotterdam, they disembarked the Jewish people, and 99% of them were murdered in Auschwitz. And in 1938, there was an Evian conference of the free world. And there they decided that none of the countries, the United States, the UK, Canada, the free world, wanted to accept any refugee, Jewish refugee. Okay, now today, when something happens, we have our country. It's an identity, whether you like it or not. I'll tell you one thing, I've met many youngsters, Jewish and non-Jewish, but especially the Jews, they say, listen, we live in the Golan, we live outside Israel. But you have to think about it. When you make a wrong move, then we suffer. And I said, be happy that we think every second of the day, 7:24, the doors are open. If something happens, you always have a place to come as a Jew. If you don't agree with our government, fantastic. I don't agree with the Dutch government, but I don't hate the Dutch. I don't agree with Angela Merkel, I don't hate the journey. And there's a big difference. And keep that in mind. Because the world is eating you. When I started with this work, was in 2004. The life calendar, with my father Duva and I was born in 24. You have seen the life calendar?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I missed the end there.
Life calendar. This is a unique document. It is not the original. The original is in the permanent exhibition in the Holocaust Museum in Washington. I participated in an international conference in Houston for hidden children. There were 1,200 hidden children from Belgium, from Holland, from Germany, from Poland, from France. They were all grown up, all mature. They all had their families and their children and grandchildren, but we are still hidden children. There was a curator of the Holocaust Museum in Washington, Mrs. Teresa Pollin, and we were talking to each other, and I told her I have an archive of my father. And she said, when are you flying back to Israel? And I told her. She said, a few days later, I will come to you. I want to see you. So she came here, and I showed her. And when she saw the life calendar, she said, wow, this is something very, very special. It's unique. And I looked at the life calendar all over the years, and I found it very childish in a way. And she didn't know. It's full of hope. So they organized an extra exhibition, Life in Shadows. You can Google that. And there was this life calendar, the eye catcher. It was blown up 2 meters high. And I and my wife, we were invited as VIPs to come to Washington, because at the same time it was the 10th anniversary of the Holocaust Museum. And I was invited to be the candlelighter on Memorial Day, Capitol Hill. I was sitting next to Joe Lieberman, Tom Lanton, before Nala in Pastor. Tom Lanton, he was also a survivor. I met Elie Wiesel, I met Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and many others. When the ceremony was over, we were talking in a small group about, I'm not a senator, I was just listening. And they were talking about anti-Semitism today and the future. And they had the opinion, it won't happen again. And I had a different opinion, but I didn't open my mouth. But Joe Lieberman, the senator, turned to me and he said, well, what's your opinion? So I said, my opinion is so different because I don't believe that. I think there is up to today the silent anti-Semitism, what you don't hear, what you don't see, and what you don't smell. But I have the feeling that it will come back. Unfortunately, today, we went back to the museum, and there was an interview on stage, so I answered all the questions. And then the audience were so many questions that I was answering questions over an hour. When that was over, Elie Wiesel came to me. And he said, Mr. Herschel, you and I, we are both survivors. You in a totally different way, but you are still a survivor. But you can inspire people, especially young people. Please continue with this work. It was in 2004. And I said, thank you very much, and I didn't know what to do with it. I called Yad Vashem, and immediately he invited me to give the first lecture. I didn't know where to start, how to start. They didn't give any indication, but I did it. And then I found out that my identity as a Jew, as an Israeli born Dutch, gave me the power in my life. Don't be afraid to be a little Jew. Be proud of it in the most terrible circumstances. Be proud of it and don't hide it. It's not necessary. You don't need to have a badge, I'm a Jew, but you are a Jew. And don't forget that when something happens in the world, wherever you are, here in Israel, it's your country, it's our country. You know, Tswi J, he made a song. This land is your land. This land is my land. From Batula to Elah. Don't forget that. And that's a part of your identity.
Thank you for that. Perhaps if I could ask one more question before opening up for a Q&A from anyone that wants to ask. You mentioned before there how you, at first, you're going through a lot of trauma. You weren't wanting to read the diary of your father and open up about your experiences. At what point did you start to open up more and be more vocal about your experiences? And in the same way, what was your relationship, or what is your relationship with your children and grandchildren with respect to your experiences?
When Annette, my wife, when we got married, her mother survived Auschwitz. Her father was 3 years in hiding. We decided not to, in our marriage, just from the beginning, not to talk about the Shoah. And we were focusing on our family, our 2 daughters, and to build up. Till one Friday evening, because we are Massorti, we are traditional. My wife lit the candles for Shabbat. And then all of a sudden, our 5-year-old daughter, the eldest one, asked, "Where are my grandparents?" My wife and I, we looked at each other and we said, "Oh." So we said, well, unfortunately, there was a war and they passed away. We told the story over the years in such a manner that we don't want to educate them in hate. And so, and we were very successful. With my grandchildren, well, they, you know, sometimes I take them to Yad Vashem when there are youngsters in the age of 14, 15, 16, in this, when they come from abroad. Then I give a lecture. I take them, because they speak 3 languages fluently, in order that the youngsters can ask my grandchildren living here in Israel, and what they think and what their experience is about the Shoah. We, my wife and I, and also the mother of my grandchildren, my daughter, we are very open about the Second World War. As a matter of fact, in September last year, there is a program here in Israel, Masa Polim. In the high school, the highest class go to visit Poland. And I was invited by the school, by the high school, to accompany them and to give some lectures over there. And it was quite an experience. It was for me the second time that I was in Poland. And there were 3 generations. It was the first generation, me. Second generation was my daughter, the mother of my grandson, and my grandson. When we flew back, I said to my grandson, I lost everything, what you can imagine, in life. But I am resilient. I started a new family, and you are my grandson. It's like a female. And Hitler was not successful in my family, although they murdered 19.9% of the family. So Shoah as such is an example. You have to learn from the past. You have to learn from the history in order to determine the future. It's all connected to it. There's nothing new under the sun. It's from Kohelet. Ein chadash mitachat hashemesh. Nothing new under the sun. It's in a different way, and some things are different, but you have to learn from our history. And our history is not a history as all the others. Since the existence of our people, of the Jewish people, we were hunted. It started with the Pharaoh in Egypt. The story of the Exodus is exactly about that. He wanted to kill us. And when you kill children, you kill people. And then over the years, over the ages, there were many people who want to kill us. We survived. We had Nebuchadnezzar, Nabucco, the opera. We had the Romans, we had the Greeks, we had the Autodafé, we had the programs, we had the Inquisition. And still we are there. And Shoah is the most terrible moment in our history. And we have to learn from it. And we have to remember this always. As it is written in the Haggadah, Kol Yemei Chayecha. You have to remember the Exodus. It's exactly with the Shoah. Kol Yemei Chayecha. All the days of your life. And even one of the Rabbanim said, not only the days, also the nights. But that's how it is. If you want to stay Jew, if you want to be a Jew, don't hesitate to be a Jew. Don't be ashamed and don't hide. Another thing, if you don't want to be a Jew, you are hunted because people around you will say, yeah, but you are Jewish. So if this is the case, stay Jewish. And it has nothing to do with our religion. I know that the bonds we have outside Israel is the religion. But it's all connected to our history. It's all connected to this country, your country. My grandchildren, they had got also the Dutch passport because their mother is Dutch. They were entitled to receive the Dutch passport. And my grandson, he's now 18, he's going into the army. When I ask him, are you Israeli or are you Dutch? And he, without any hesitation, he said, me? Ani? I'm Israeli. It is proud to be Jewish. Be proud to be Jewish. And that's a part of your identity. And you cannot shuffle it under the rug.
Absolutely, that must make you very proud from what you were saying earlier about the need to have a strong personal identity as well.
Sure, I didn't understand your question.
No, I'm just saying it must make you very proud as well from what you were saying earlier about the need to have a strong personal identity, to hear that from your grandson.
Yeah.
Perhaps if we can open up the question and answer part of this session. Firstly, we have a question from Matthias from Austria.
I've unmuted me. So hello, Mr. Herschel. What I wanted to know is how it was to live in the post-war Netherlands. How the Dutch society acted after the war towards the Jewish minority. Also, I mean, considering the fact, as you mentioned, that there was also some collaboration.
Well, it's a matter of fact that in principle, the Dutch were very happy that they got rid of the Jews. The moment the Jews were dragged out of their houses, the neighbors came and they stole everything in the house. After the war, it wasn't that. When the Jews came back, they said, you came back? Instead of saying, oh, I'm happy you are still alive, you came back. And the government gave a cold shoulder. As a matter of fact, the Queen of Holland at that time, Wilhelmina, she fled to London, and which was already, in my eyes, a terrible thing to do when you leave your country and your people. It's in the contrary with Denmark or Belgium. There, the royal family stayed there. And during the period, the war period, she spoke every week over the radio to the Dutch people. She never mentioned anything about the Jews. And she knew it. The Dutch, it took them almost 65 years to to give back the money they stole from the Jews. And just a few months ago, the Prime Minister, Mr. Rutte, he apologized for the cold shoulder after the war, what the government gave to the Jews. 75 years later. I've no hope. I've only one hope. It's the Hatekwa in this country. And believe me, a lot of things are not okay here. But is it in Austria? Is alles gut in Austria?
Sorry, could you repeat the last question about Austria?
Is everything okay in Austria? I mean, with the politicians, with the whole.
I wouldn't go that far to say that everything is okay in Austria with the politicians, but that's from a personal point of view.
That's how it is. I was happy that I left behind the country of birth. I had nothing what actually it keeps me there. I gave a lecture 5 years ago in Zwolle. That's the place where my parents were born and lived, and I was born there as well. And it was for the Stolperstein. It was a promotion. And after my lecture, an elderly man came to me and he said, "Listen, I live next to your father. Next door, I was the neighbor. And when he had to go to Amsterdam, to the ghetto of Amsterdam, he gave me a bookmark, a silver bookmark. And it doesn't belong to me. Even the initials, it's there of your father. And I tried to polish it away, but it didn't go. It doesn't belong to me, I give it back to you." Well, I was flabbergasted. And I didn't believe him. How on earth my father is going to give away to a little boy in those days? A neighbor. The silver bookmark? There were only question marks. It's here, I have it here, and it's nothing but it's emotional. So don't believe all the PR about Anna Frank. It became an icon. I always ask the Dutch people in Yad Vashem, when I give a lecture, who want to drag the family Frank and the others out of the Achterhuis? And mostly you hear the Groene Polizei or the SS. And no, it was the Amsterdam police.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have a next question from Shayna from Canada.
Hi, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for giving us your time today. It's really special to be able to hear from you, so thank you. And yeah, so as a student and young professionals and stuff, I feel like it's very easy for us to watch what's going on in the world, like in terms of anti-Semitism and the rise of like other forms of bigotry, and feel like very powerless and feel like there's nothing we can do. And I was wondering, like, if you could answer from your perspective, what things we can be doing in our lives to make sure like something like this doesn't happen again.
First of all, you have to study the history. Second of all, you must know what it means to be a Jew. You don't need to be religious, but study it. Knowledge is the key, and knowledge is the tool to fight back. I'm studying in audiences with 400 to 500 students in the RWTH, the university in Aachen in Germany, political science. That's not easy. You get the most stupid questions from very intelligent people, and mostly they don't have knowledge. If you want to fight back, you must have the knowledge. That's the only tool you have to defend yourself. But you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to explain, because you have proud Jews. So forget to defend and forget to explain. The only thing what you need is knowledge. If knowledge is the only way you can defeat.
Yeah, thank you. We also have a question from Josef from Belgium.
Yeah, hi Tzwi. First of all, thank you very much for giving a talk to us all. What I was actually wondering is, as with my own grandparents that were originally from Romania, Hungary, near the border, and then survived, were deported to the death camps and survived. And first they went back to Romania near the border because they were hoping and they thought maybe we should go back to where we come from, to everything that we have there. But then they realized after a few years, or after 1 or 2 years, this isn't the place for us, and they fled it completely. Did you have the same feeling, or were you after the liberation straight, we have to get as far as away as possible from here?
Well, it was a gradual process. First of all, I never ever went after the bank accounts and the properties of my family, because I didn't have the money. You need a lawyer for that. And I said, I have to create myself, whatever. So that's what I did. And again, last summer, I took my grandchildren and my daughter to Holland for a holiday. And I speak the language. I know the mentality. I know my way. So we were having a holiday and we're talking, we met people. And some people, sometimes they ask us, where are you from? Where do you live? So we say, we are from Israel. Oh, you speak Dutch and we are from Israel. We have been in Israel, fantastic country, very enthusiastic. We're very happy with that. Sometimes we said we are from Israel and it was like a curtain. Oh, I don't belong in Holland. I'm born in Holland. I don't belong there. It's not my country. Because my country, when it, as Holland should be, betrayed the Jews up to today. With all the crocodile tears, it doesn't bring back anything.
Thank you for that answer. And perhaps if you have time for 2 more questions before we begin the reflection side of the session. So firstly from Clara Cohen.
Yeah, hello. First of all, thank you so much. My name is Clara Cohn. I'm from Germany. And I just wanted to ask you, so I'm the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. My father survived Auschwitz and Dachau. And it just means the world to me that you're doing this today. And I just wanted to ask you what your feeling towards Germany somehow is, or towards Germany, because for me, living here as a Jew with all the anti-Semitism, it's quite hard, and I still don't really understand why my dad came to Germany, even though so many things happened to him and to my family. And yeah, so what are your feelings towards the people today, and if you see all the anti-Semitism nowadays?
Nou, zuerst guten Abend. Freut mich sehr, dass Sie auch ein bisschen Deutsch reden können. And to answer your question is, it is understandable. Because the roots, as the other student, I forgot his name, was telling about his family went back to Romania. The roots of your parents were in Germany. They have their memories from Germany. No?
My father was also from Romania.
Also
and he went back to Romania, then he went to Israel, and then he came to Germany.
But I tell you what, a lot of Jews did that, and do it even today. Economically, in those days was very, very hard. You couldn't earn a penny. Today it's different. But it's a very tough mentality. It's almost the same mentality as it is in the United States. It's more socialistic country than the United States, and it's fantastic. But the mentality is very, very tough. And I do understand that people, out of desperation, out of pain in their heart, that they wanted to live in their own country and they couldn't make it because of mostly out of economic reasons. So they went to Germany. And I don't know how old your parents are. They are still alive, but they must be exactly or even older than I am. And old trees you never replant. But it's the new generation. If you feel the anti-Semitism, you have to think at least twice if you want to continue like that. If you want to stay there, yes or no. And I advise you, and it's the same what I said to my children. Don't start to argue with me going on Aliyah. You don't need to go to Aliyah. But go for 1 year to our country, to Israel, and see how it is. I pay. You must have the taste of it. And when you think you want to study there, fantastic, study there. And that's what they decided. They came here, they studied. My eldest daughter, they couldn't find a job here. It was very hard for her. She went back to Amsterdam. Now she lives half in Paris and half in Amsterdam. She's married. And okay, it's like that. But every 5 minutes she's here in Israel. She speaks the language. She loves the country. But okay, her husband works in Paris, and okay, that's how it is. But you're a student, and if you don't feel, let's say, okay in Germany, try to find a way to come for 1 year to this country. And if you want to study, you can go to university, you can do the first year in university and learn the language. But it won't say that you have to study right away, but it's a chance. You have to learn the country, the mentality. It's a totally different mentality here. You have to get used to it. You get a culture shock. I got a culture shock. My wife got a culture shock. The only thing is what we said is we came into the country not to go away. So when there are things that we don't like, then we have to try to form it to direct it in our way of thinking. That is fantastic. It doesn't go like that. So we said we know what we do. We go with the flow, but we keep the steering wheel in our hands. And that was a successful formula.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tzwi. And finally, a question from Arena.
Hi. Hello, Mr. Herschel. First of all, thank you for your story. I'm from Lithuania, and as a Lithuanian Jew, it really means a lot to me. And so my question would be, at different points of your childhood, you were surrounded by two different religions, Judaism and Protestantism. So how did that affect you and your attitude towards society?
How affected towards what?
Towards society, like your standpoint towards humanity, society, and just your standpoint.
I believe in humanity. I love life. It's worth to live it. Although sometimes it's terrible, but there's always a way out. There is a very famous artist, Danny Kaye, in many movies. And one of the movies he's playing is me and a colonel. And something happens. And then he said, there are always two possibilities. You can go to the left and you go to the right. And now the question is, which direction you are going. What your heart tells you, that is the direction you go. And you can always, when something happens, what I said, you are the one, you yourself as the steering wheel. You steer yourself a direction. You know which direction.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Tzwi. And perhaps if I can be a bit greedy and ask one more question to lead us on to the reflection session. You mentioned it briefly beforehand, but what do you see as our role as young Jews in Europe to cultivate the memory of the Shoah, to keep Holocaust remembrance alive? I was just wondering if you could give us your views on that.
Well, if you want to be a Jew, you are obliged to study what happened in the Second World War, what the Shoah is. Because that's what you have to take with you all your life. And that's the way you are going to educate your children, that they mustn't forget. Because anti-Semitism, it's there. It has been there, and it will be there. And sometimes it's terrible, and sometimes you can cope with it. But it's the Shoah is an example. It gives you a direction, how to handle, how to think, and what to do. And you yourself are making the decision. You can ask someone for an advice, but it's you who has to make the decision. And I tell you that why? My parents were very Zionistic. And I was always asking, what was the reason that my parents didn't push to go to Palestine in that time? There was no answer. There was no money, I know. Today it's different. You know, it's easy. But my grandmother, I felt she had a secret. And she wanted to tell me that, but she didn't want to tell me. So one day on a Saturday afternoon, Shabbat afternoon, I always went to her. I respected her always, although I didn't like her. And we had tea together. So one afternoon I asked her, listen, you want to tell me something. And it's for my benefit to know. And it's for your benefit that you tell me that. And then she said, you are right. Yeah, I'll tell it very short, but it was not that easy. And then she said, next week I will tell it to you. So I came the next week. We had our tea, and I was waiting, and she didn't say a thing. And then I said, She promised me to tell me, no, she said, I can't. It went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And one afternoon, on a Shabbat afternoon, I came to her and I said, listen, I'm not going to sit down, I'm not going to drink tea. You have to tell me. If you don't want to, if you don't open your mouth, I'm leaving and I won't come back. It was not nice, but you know, it made me so curious what was going on there. What is it? It must have been very, very important, and it was important. So I left the room, and after 3 weeks she called me, and she said, "Tzwi, listen, I'm ready to tell you. I can. You had a tea." And then she told me the following story. Your parents, your father, your mother wanted to leave, wanted to go on Aliyah to Palestine. And I said to my son, your father, please, Nico, stay here. You are my son. Please stay here. You are the one with the income. I cannot do without you. And my parents listened. And what did she say? It's my fault that your parents are nervous. In the meantime, I met so many people, survivors, child survivors, and I heard so many stories. And one story of a very close friend who survived as a hidden child and whose parents were caught at the border of Switzerland and France. His parents wanted to flee Holland. And the couple went to one of the parents of the couple, I don't know which one, and they said, we are going. We have money enough, we are going, we are going, we are going. We leave our child here because we can't take a little baby with, that's too dangerous. And the parents say, no, you have to stay, you have to stay, you have to stay. And at the end it was almost impossible to flee home. They went and they were caught on the border. They were caught by the Swiss. The Swiss brought them to the German border, and from there they were transported to Auschwitz. In any case, in your age as a student, you have to decide yourself. You have to confront yourself with all the negative sides of your decision. The positive sides you don't need to talk about. And that's exactly what I mean to be a Jew outside the state of Israel. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, terribly. So make a decision. What's good for your future, or what is good for your future is definitely good for yourself. And don't forget that this country is your country. It's our country.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for your time, Tzwi. I'm just now the part of the session that we plan to go towards is a sort of breakdown reflection group where we'll be put into smaller groups and led by, as I mentioned earlier, some of the participants of this Yad Vashem seminar in December to really get a sense of what our responsibility is, having now heard your experience and your story, Tzwi. So thank you so much for giving us your time, and I think Sammy will now split us up into different groups to begin this discussion. I'll just give a quick introduction to the 5 members, if that's possible. So we have Lara, who is from Spain. We have Leah from France, Victoria, also from France, Gabrielle from Italy, and Elias from France as well. But Tzwi, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone to listening to Tzwi's story in this part of the discussion.
It was a pleasure to talk about, to explain and to talk about my life. And I do hope that you can take something out of it that you can use in your life.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So yeah, we'll just shouldn't be too long now before we'll be put up into these breakout sessions, and yeah, see what our thoughts on this talk were. And just to let you know as well, we plan the breakout discussion to last maybe 10-15 minutes or so, and then perhaps afterwards, if we all come back as a group and share thoughts on what we've reflected upon for perhaps another 10 or 15 minutes. And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I leave my computer on, so I'm waiting.
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks, Tzwi.
Ja, ze zijn even bezig. De 6.
Hi, Tzwi. Thank you very much again for having spoken with us there. We're just going through some technical stuff, splitting them up into different groups. But yeah, as I say. Oh.
Wait, I will put you with him into I don't know where he is. Ah, here.
Wait, did he?
Oh no.
Wait, who's he with before you just send me over there?
No. He's in a breakout session.
Who is it?
Did you just do that?
No, I didn't do it. Wait, I will put you. I'll put
no,
you.
He's back. Tzwi's back now.
Oh no, he's not. Ah, he's back.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Are you giving more talks over the next few days for various groups?
No, because I'm bound to our house. I'm entitled to walk 500 meters from the front door. I can do my shopping or to go to a chemistry or the post office or the bank, and that's all.
Sure.
So in Yad Vashem it's closed. There's nothing there. All my program actually, at the moment, I'm already bound for 4.5 weeks in the house. But luckily we have a garden and we sit in the sun.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. And
I also wanted to say really thank you for coming today. My name is Bini Gutman. I'm the president of the European Union of Jewish Students. And I just wanted to say that we really appreciate that you came today and that you were able to talk with us today, even in this very weird setting that we all have to live with. So really thanks a lot.
Okay. You're welcome.
And are you giving other webinars over the next few days, or?
I have for this week nothing.
Okay.
But my full program is upside down. It's cancelled. I had to go to Holland and to Germany again, but it's all postponed. I'm actually making a movie with the Dutch TV station in Germany about my. And well, we start all over again when the Kristallnacht in November, on the 9th of November, to start again. It's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely it is. We've had we've had various sort of seminars set up that we've had to postpone and make this transition towards the online sphere, which for me, not being the most technologically aware person, has its challenges for sure, but we seem to be coping with Sammy and Bini's expertise.
Are there more people coming for questions, or what?
So I think at the moment there will be another, and again, Tzwi, it's totally up to you if you want to take a break and go, or not take a break to leave the conversation. That's absolutely fine. The plan for the moment is they'll be talking amongst themselves for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes or so, and then come back and have an overall discussion. But as I say, there's no obligation for you to stick around.
I would love to stay if you say I can stay.
Oh, of course.
There are more questions, and I would love to answer them, because now you have the opportunity. So grab the opportunity.
Okay, fantastic then. That's great. But yeah, it's quite funny how it works out. I only started at EUGS about 3 months ago now. And before that, my first exposure to EUGS was at this seminar at Yad Vashem. So it's quite nice to see my cohort again and allow us to lead this discussion, I guess. But yeah, they'll be, as I say, they'll be there for another 5-10 minutes, and we really appreciate you sticking around.
Was it your first time in it? You come to Israel?
No, I've been there. That was my 4th time. My first time in Israel was for my bar mitzvah, which was such an incredible experience, which I don't think appreciate at the time.
That's usually, that's normal.
Yeah.
It's more for the family than for the bar mitzvah.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's an incredible, and we have an amazing story. I actually met, we were staying at a hotel in Jerusalem, and my mum's actually from Brazil, and she has some basic grasp of Hebrew, so was able to listen to the tour that we had at the hotel, which was going on in Hebrew. And my dad, my brother, and I were had a nice gentleman who was translating the conversation for us. And then it turns out at the end of the tour, when we were all meeting up together, the woman that my mum was speaking to was the wife of who was doing the translation for my dad, my brother, and I. And it turns out that we were distantly related through my mum's. Oh, don't ask me, I don't know the specific relation, but no, my first trip to Israel was all trips have been very special, but that's a really one of these only in Israel moments, I think.
Yeah, this can happen in this country.
Yeah, definitely.
Now this is Corona problem. It's we all are one big family. We are taking care of each other. When I was here with the first Gulf War, and we used to live in another place where the Scots were flying around, and the atmosphere was one big family. It was something very, very special. And again, my neighbors, the birthday, immediately they called and they said, listen, if you need anything in your life, give us a call. We go to the supermarket. You don't need to go. But, I said, it's fine, but we have to move. We have to do a little bit. We are confined to one place now. You appreciate when I'm driving my car, all of a sudden, the world is much bigger than I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Just received a message off the guys in the groups that they're ready to come back for this overall reflection. So, okay, so I don't know if you've seen the message on the screen that it'll end in 1 minute. So let's see. We've had to quickly adapt to Zoom, haven't we, over this period? Hi there, everyone. Welcome back. Is that everyone now? I think so. Okay, great. So Tzwi's been very kind with his time and has said that he would very much like to stay around for this conversation and listen to what reflections and ideas we've had. So perhaps if anyone in particular like to start us off, or shall I just? Perhaps Leah, I can ask you what. Oh, yeah.
Wait, the sessions are only finishing in 2 seconds, so repeat what you said.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, I think that's everyone back now. So as I just said to the other groups that came back, Tzwi's been very kind with his time and has stayed to listen to what we've reflected upon. So if anyone would like to start off and introduce themselves and come up with and mention some of their reflection points, perhaps.
All right. So I've introduced myself already to you, Tzwi, at the beginning of this call, but for the others, my name is Elias and I'm 21 and I'm French. And so I was, a session with 4 other people, and we mentioned a lot of things, including identity and the quest for identity that you and so many other survivors went through. And so we said, of course, it was very Jewish, but we also said it was very different, a very different kind of experience for all Holocaust survivors, because it was also very territorial, as in you've moved in many different places probably, and that must have shaped who you are as well, as much as you've tried to look for who you were. And then we also talked about our responsibility as sharing and informing about Holocaust and about the Shoah, because sadly many survivors are passing away, and we are saying that we are sharing a responsibility of passing on the memory of the Holocaust and making sure that even though there will be no people to testify on it, there will be other people to keep informing and telling about it, because in the end, it's about remembrance, but also it's about core values, and that you've mentioned these values as well: respect and being kind. And I think that's quite sums up what we've been talking about.
You want me to reflect on that as well?
Totally up to you, Tzwi. If you have anything to say about it, go for it.
I'm happy to hear that I try to convey a message, and I think that you understood my message, and it has to sink in much more. And I do hope that it gives you a direction in your life. I thank you for your reflection.
Thanks. And would anyone else, perhaps in the same or a different group, have any other thoughts to share?
Yes. Like we talk about how our family told us what happened, and how we as a witness of a witness deliver the message to the next generation. And I wanted it to speak about another topic, but we didn't have so much time. It was about our thought on the Aliyah, or the fact that some Jewish people want to stay in Europe. So, but we didn't have the time to talk about it. Like Ilan, you cut me off. So, but yes.
Okay, it's your free will.
Yeah, for sure, yes.
You know, but you know, it's not. It's your own free will. It's your own decision. When you want to stay in Europe or in Japan or in any other place as a Jew, it's up to you. It doesn't matter. The only thing is that don't forget you're Jewish. When you are a Jew, you are a Jew.
And oh, sorry. Just it was something that you said before that it was very like the first time I went to Israel, it was like 2 years ago, and I felt something very strange and something very new is like to be proud of your Jewish roots and the family and everything, because I was like, wow, it's amazing to see like Hebrew like Jewish store or Jewish thing like everywhere. Because here in France, like my family, they always say, like they always raise us as no, don't talk about this, don't talk about the fact that you have Jewish roots, or no, just hide. So I felt this proud here in Israel. So make the area is something very like honorable and amazing to me. But in the same time, I'm divided on the fact that stay here in France, or my family are from Hungary, but stay here in France is an act of resistance. Like we are the third generation, but it's something we are proud to be French, or proud to have Hungarian roots, and we have the right to stay in Europe too. Like, so I'm divided between the both, like, thought.
I do understand that. My son-in-law, he is from Paris. He is a movie maker. He works and he lives in Paris and all over the world, actually. And ever so now and then, you know, he comes here to Israel a couple of times. And the moment he comes here, he says, I'm at home. And when I took my wife for the first time to Israel, I said to her, listen, we are flying out. Anyhow, I want to fly out. And at those days, the moment you are approaching the coastline of Israel, they start to play the music of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. And I said to her, you are going to cry. She said, come on, don't start with this. Well, over the board radio, the stewardess said, we are approaching the coastline of Israel. And they started to play Shalom Aleichem. And my wife started to cry. And then I asked her after a while, why are you crying? She said, I feel I'm coming home. I don't know what it is. It's the first time that I come to Israel. I come home. Thank you for your reflection.
Thank you.
Thanks,
so
Victoria. Much. Thanks, Tzwi. I'm sorry for cutting you off earlier, Victoria.
No, it's good.
Does anyone have anything else to add or say?
Yeah, well, I would like to add something, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So in general, I would say that's also what I said before, and yeah, like during the break or during the discussion. It's just important to keep on talking about like what happened back then, because I feel like if we Jewish people or whoever was affected by the Holocaust, if we don't talk about it, nobody will talk about it somehow. And I hear it so often that people are just telling me, or they're cutting me off and they're like, oh, you're talking so much about anti-Semitism, but they don't really want to see what's happening around them because they're not affected by anti-Semitism. So I just think that it's so important to make them aware of the fact that there is a lot of anti-Semitism. There are still people who deny the Holocaust. That's also why I think it's so amazing that you do like all these things with Yad Vashem, and we must keep like all these places. For instance, Auschwitz. I was supposed to be at March of the Living right now, but it's not taking place, and I haven't had the chance yet to see a concentration camp or something like similar. So I just think that it's hard to convey the feeling, like the feeling I get when we talk to you right now is amazing, but other generations won't get like the possibility anymore. So I just feel we must, yeah, that's what you said, like we must learn, and we must listen to each other, and we also should make people aware of the fact that there's so many things happening right now that are not okay. Yeah.
To take one point out of your is that you need people to say, "Oh, stop about talking about anti-Semitism." That by itself is already anti-Semitism. Because the simple fact, anti-Semitism is there. If you don't open your mouth, then it goes on and on and on. Then you are back to square one. So in principle, I think it's a must to open your mouth. And don't be afraid to say you're an enemy. That's the best way to defend. You don't need to defend, but it's the attack. When someone tells you something and you say this and you're an anti-Semite, and they say, no, I'm not an anti-Semite. So just because of that, you are. No, I'm anti-Israel. Again, you are an anti-Semite. That's the best way to answer. And don't be afraid. Don't fear anything. You as a young generation actually have the duty, especially now you have been in Yad Vashem. You know, you learn there a lot what happened in the past with our people. Yeah, you only can defend yourself with knowledge, and don't fear. Don't fear ever in your life. And be proud to be Jewish.
I think that's a very, very nice way to end the session there. Tzwi, thank you very much again for your time. And a big thank you to Yoni and Deborah from Yad Vashem as well for helping to make this discussion possible. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I wish you much of health, happiness in your life, a lot of atzlacha, a lot of luck, mazal, and I do hope that we can meet somehow, somewhere in Yad Vashem. Thank you, guys. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
the last
you.
point, perhaps, if I can.
Thank you.
I would just like to encourage everyone, if you, we have tomorrow evening a shir at 8 p.m. With Miki Weinberg. So to stay in touch with what EUGS is doing, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to stay in touch. But I hope everyone's staying healthy and safe at this time. Thanks, everyone.